Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. I recently returned from TBEX. I've been talking to other participants that I met and to just get some feedback on what they liked about the conference, share a little bit about it. So if you're thinking about going and wonder what it's about, you'll have some insight. So welcome, Anthony.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So was this your first time to TBEX as well?
This was my first time. Yep, we're pretty new to this whole kind of blogging content creation world, so it was a new experience.
And how did you hear about TBEX?
I had I'm trying to think of which podcast it was, but I'd heard on a podcast that if we're going to do this, one of the things we really needed to do was network and go to conferences. I think it was an Eric Stone Travel Babo episode.
Oh, nice.
And so that was one of his main pieces of advice. And I happen to be lucky. I live in Minneapolis, and TBEX North America in 2023 was held in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is about 2 hours away. Um,
Right. And what I thought was interesting too was that it was not just bloggers, but there were YouTube creators, book authors, writers, and just such a wide range of ages, which was really nice as far as what I observed.
100%. And we're family travel bloggers. And I think when you do something, you just assume that's what the whole rest of the world does. And I was amazed at the variety of different niches that people had, different focuses, platforms that they cared about. So I came away with a lot of to-do items at all. Probably not
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I think that's how I looked at it too. I mean, I had only heard about it recently as well, like probably November when a friend of mine who lives in Eau Claire said, "Hey, there's this travel conference you might want to check out." And that's kind of how it came across my radar too. Um,
Yep.
what were some of the sessions that you went to?
Yeah, so I focused as much of my time as I could on there was a vertical of sessions on working with DMOs or destination marketing organizations. Because one of the things we want to focus on is as we're traveling with our family, starting to build a little additional income from it, or at least offsetting some of those costs. And so that kind of fit, our current goals, and also this idea that I was at this conference to meet people. And so I tried to focus everything I could on kind of the human networking side.
Yeah. So how did you feel the networking side worked did you feel that it was successful in that regard?
I feel like it was very successful. I'm actually pleasantly surprised how many people I'm still talking to. I'm on podcasts for people I met there. So I think it was very beneficial. There's DMOs that I'm working with are in the process of creating a relationship. And so I didn't know what to expect, and it turned out pretty great.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think the direct marketing organizations or the destination, I guess it's destination marketing organizations is what it stands for. That aspect is really a little bit new to me as well. But there were a lot of towns from the Midwest and even down to Louisiana represented there, and they really gave us a lot of opportunities, I felt, to interact with them.
Exactly. They had like the pre-bex events, the evening events, and then there was the speed networking events where you could sit down with each and every one of those destinations and kind of give, for me, it was more practicing giving my elevator pitch, which the first couple were probably pretty awkward. And then, starting to build those relationships and learn about those towns. And for me, I'm from the Midwest. I know them by name. I learned a lot about, you know, what type of activities are available in a lot of these small towns that I've probably driven by on times but I've never spent much time in.
Right. And I think too, with the family aspect, I think a lot of families, are, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, are looking for things that are local to do.
100%. Yeah, traveling with the family is expensive. And so I think the closer you can stay to home, uh, the better.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the sessions I thought too that were helpful were some of the like AI sessions, which is a whole new avenue as well to help speed up just all the content creation.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that, one of the keynotes was the content at scale folks. And I went in there with probably a very negative view on AI and what it does for creativity and what it does for our world. And I signed up for content at scale, and I probably kicked off 3 times the amount of blog posts I normally would. And it takes a lot of work to kind of recraft that AI language because it is kind of flowy and definitely not my style, and there's inaccuracies in it. But I found that it gets rid of that like blank page,
Wow.
where you just stare at your computer and you're like, how do I start this thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that was a shock to me. You would have asked me going into that if that would have been a takeaway. I would have told you not to choice.
So you're actually signed up then for content at scale, what they had to
Yeah,
offer.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I've used it, for quite a few blog posts, and I found it very helpful for creating that outline and the kind of the basis of the facts. I probably cut out about 20% of what it writes just because it's maybe not the angle that I'm looking for. And then I reword a lot of it just to be my voice. And then I add a lot of personal stories. So we aren't writing about things that we haven't done or haven't been to. Um, but it helps us add a little more depth to what we're writing because if we go to a town like La Crosse, we can't possibly see everything. Um, but we can easily add more content to help families see, like, here are some other family friendly things that you can do that we didn't do but are still a lot of fun.
Right. Did you bring your family then to the conference? Because I found Eau Claire was like, there was so much there that families could possibly do.
Yeah, I didn't. So we have a kind of a unique situation. We both work, and so Eau Claire, worked for me because I could sneak out of work a little late on a Tuesday, head down there, take some PTO days, not have it look strange.
Right.
We got young kids. My wife's an elementary school teacher. Lucky for us, she's off for the summer, but she was home kind of manning the fort. Um, and then we ended up going on a fam trip after the event to La Crosse. And so originally that was just me. That Friday was my wife's birthday. And so I kind of felt like after leaving her home for a week, leaving for her birthday was probably not a good strategic move. So I reached out to the folks at Explore La Crosse, which is the town that was hosting us, and said, any chance she could come along. She does most of the kind of visual creative work for us. So she takes the pictures, the videos, puts that stuff together. And they were gracious enough to allow her to come, and they didn't know it was her birthday either. So
Oh, that's nice.
I
Yeah, and
come
that's
on.
great that you took advantage of the post trips that were hosted by the various destinations. There were quite a
Yes,
few actually.
there were. Yep. And for us being relatively new, it was such a good opportunity to see other creators in action, to see kind of what they do, what they're taking pictures of, what they're writing about, how they're interacting with the people from the DMO. And it was a chance for us to build a good relationship with the entire team at Explore La Crosse. So it just kind of extended that learning period for us by another 3 days, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and just that hands-on aspect too, like you said that it wasn't just you and the DMO, it was there were a few others that you could kind of, take their lead and learn from right in the moment.
Yeah, and there was a couple, Ann and Steve from Postcard Jar, which is, they've been at it a lot longer than we are, and very different niche, very different focus. But they were so nice about like asking us if we had questions and making us feel comfortable, and trying to almost like pry out of us some of those insecurities, so we would, open up a little bit, and then they could help, you know, push us along because they've probably made all the mistakes we're about to make. So at least if they could save us from a couple of them, that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I did think was the biggest takeaway was for me was being a first timer. I never at any point felt like, that the ones that had been there longer like didn't want to help. There was just this a lot of camaraderie. I mean, I just was very warm and welcoming on all sides, I felt like.
I feel the exact same. I kind of went into it just wondering, like, are people going to be open about kind of their tips and tricks, or are they going to be guarded and kind of protecting their little corner of the internet? And I didn't find that once. Like, everyone was helpful. The people have done this many times. They could smell us from a mile away, and they knew who the newcomers were, and they were just so helpful about making sure we got the most out of the event.
Yeah, I think so too. So, are you thinking about going to one of the upcoming TBEXs?
I am. We've been talking about the Puerto Rico one. We've been there before. We love the island.
Okay.
Um, and it would be nice to have a trip without the kids. We haven't done one of those for a long time. And it'd be a nice chance for both of us to be able to network and learn and do so from a Caribbean island.
Yeah.
It's the work, you know, the real job that I have to hold that kind of gets in my way.
Yeah, no, I understand. Do you have tips for other first timers that or things that you would do differently going next time just to prepare yourself or
Yeah, I think I would have probably done a little more research ahead of time. I kind of went in, I didn't even, I hate admitting it, I didn't really look at the schedule much. I didn't give much thought to what I was going to get out of it. I had in my mind just it was the networking side. Like that was the most important piece because that was the whole kind of hook that drew me in. And so if I were to do it again, I would think through a little bit more kind of what are my goals for the next 6 months from more of a technical standpoint, and then try to hit some of those more technical sessions. So maybe I'd have one thing to work on in the blog and one thing to work on Instagram or Facebook, or one thing to do differently from a video creation standpoint. So I could kind of be pulling on all the levers at once. But
yeah, I think that's the thing that was hard for me is that honestly too, I didn't take as much time ahead of time to like go through the schedule. I mean, it was kind of felt like that cram session where I'm like, okay, the 2 days before, or the day before, it's like, okay, what is there to do tomorrow and which session? And there was a lot of overlap in things I wanted to attend. So then it was choosing. So I think if anything, preparing ahead of time really which one might be more important for you. The nice thing is they do record everything. So eventually we'll have access to the other sessions. But
one thing I did that I found helped a lot, and probably was a little annoying for the other attendees, but before the event, I looked through on the Blogger Exchange or whatever that website is, and I found a lot of the other bloggers, especially the ones from the Midwest, and I reached out to them on Instagram ahead of time, just to kind of have that first touch point, so people had seen my handle before, hopefully had seen my picture, so it wasn't just walking into a room with 300 other people you don't know and then trying to initiate those conversations. And I do feel like that helped because people, when I did introduce myself, they felt like they had seen me before. They had recognized the name a little bit, which I think helps.
yeah, I think that's a great tip. Either and they created a Facebook group too, which I thought was super helpful because you could
Yeah,
hop it even if you don't use Facebook a lot. I would suggest getting in there like I did too, like before the conference, ask a question, interact in there because again, just that people start to recognize you, and then when they do see you at the conference, you already feel like you said, some familiarity there.
exactly. And I mean, the only other piece of advice I'd have is like, you're there, so maximize every minute. So like, you're going to be tired. They're long days. I think one of the most productive bits of the evening or bits of time I had was actually going out to the bar after all the events. Probably it must have been Wednesday night. Um, we were on the bus coming back from I think the Country Jam event. There were a couple guys. Two of them were speakers at the event. They were like, "We're gonna go get a drink. You want to come?" I said, "Sure." And then those turned into real relationships that we still talk, and I comment on their stuff, they comment on mine. So I could have easily just said, you know what, I'm wiped. I'm going back. I got to be up tomorrow morning to go to the next session. And thankfully I didn't. And that was, I think, 4 additional relationships I built that I wouldn't have built otherwise.
Oh yeah, that's an excellent tip. If you can go, stay after. I mean, they had a lot of events on those evenings. Stay for a little while. I mean, a lot of just casual conversations. Or at lunch. I know that's how I sat down at lunch with you. Just pick a table. If you've met other people, pick a different table. Just pull up a chair and ask if you can sit there and talk to people.
Exactly. And it's hard. I'm not the most extroverted person, but I kind of just put in my mind, like, I'm not going to stand alone. So, and I found I never had an awkward situation where I sat down and could tell people didn't really want me there.
Yeah.
Everyone was, and you're right. A lot of the relationships came from someone randomly saying, "Hey, you mind if I join you?"
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah, well, I think overall it was an excellent conference. I would highly suggest people that are either doing written content. I mean, YouTube channel, podcasting. There's just a lot of opportunities that might present themselves. And I feel like for the value, at least in my mind, it's a very affordable conference.
Very, yeah. If you look at it compared to the other options in the market, it's probably a third the cost or less.
Yeah, especially given that they include, your meals and all the activities. So, and then, like I said, ahead of time, you can always, if you're looking to share, make connections ahead of time. Maybe I heard there was one group of women, I think, that were all moms that got an Airbnb, just different ways that they found to, reduce their costs.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. I agree. It's very well worth the effort. And I'll for sure be back.
Yeah. So, Anthony, go ahead and tell everyone your blog, your website, where people can find you if they want to reach out and interact or.
Yeah, of course. So we're most active on Instagram. It's From Tent to Takeoff. The website is www.fromtenttotAkeoff.com. And we're also on Facebook, and luckily enough, have the exact same handle, From Tent to Takeoff. So same thing across all platforms. We're easy to find.
Great. Thanks.